So I'm here today to talk to you about unlocking digital trust through anonymity. And it's a bit of a big hook to get you in, and I'm aware that I'm standing in a room full of people who are data gatherers, hoarders, and there's a constant land grab for more and more data. And I'm going to provide a slightly alternative perspective, which is in certain contexts, less data is actually going to give you a better result. So I'm Christy. I'm Head of Delivery and Business Intelligence at Reachout. For more than 20 years, I've been working in the digital space, managing product teams, running agile processes, building capabilities in people. It's something I've really loved for the last couple of decades. These days, I've been working in a non-profit organisation, Reachout, and I'm really passionate about mission-driven organisations. The reason being is I think our digital skills are really relevant in a lot of contexts, and sometimes I hear there've been a lot of retailers in the room, there's a lot of e-commerce, there's a lot of ways in which we can use our skills, but they can also be applied to really big world problems, and I think that's worth waking up for every day. I'm also a mum of 2 teens, gives me a particular insight into Reachout's work, which I'll tell you about in a minute. I am a Wordle fan, and when I step away from the computer, I kind of like to cook. So who's Reachout? Well, we're an Australian mental health service supporting young people, their parents and carers, and schools in tough times. We are 100% online. There's other youth mental health services in Australia. They have walk-in centres, they have face-to-face opportunities to service their clients. We are 100% online. The kind of stuff we do, what we offer in our support services is a range of content, and that comes through in all manner of forms. It's tips, stories, resources, long-form articles, short-form articles, it's quizzes, it's social engagements. It's whatever is the right content to find those people at the right time and deliver them the information that they need. We have online forums, and we also, a couple of years ago, launched a new service called Peer Chat, which is a one-to-one chat service between 2 humans, a young person and an experienced peer worker. And a peer worker is someone with lived mental health experience whose job it is to walk alongside a young person and help them understand their experience. And we're a non-profit organisation. There's a lot of people in the room who wake up every day and look at the daily sales report. That's not really what we do. We get funded in different ways by the government, by large foundations, and by individuals. But I will tell you a little bit about what matters to us, like how do we measure success if it's not through money and daily sales. So what are our goals? Well, the reason we exist is to be the trusted and safe digital space that is empowering young people to feel better. And I've highlighted the words trusted and safe. So just to give you a bit of context, this is really important to us as an organisation, and we've built this into our purpose statement. We also have a lot of OKRs, just like every other business, but rather than share them today, I think it's just useful to sum it up as one thing. We exist to make a positive impact. That is the highest goal, and we're always holding that in front of us. And I always get asked, but how do you measure impact? It's not that easy, but we're getting there. We're getting better at this, and we look at 3 things: outcomes, engagement, and reach. Now, outcomes are about the positive changes that we can attribute to the use of our support services. And an example of that in the mental health space is something like helping someone feel a sense of connection, helping someone with relief from negative feelings that they're having in that particular moment. And it can also be about building mental health literacy. It's very hard to start a journey into kind of your own mental health journey if you don't have the language and the words to speak about it. Engagement, you guys all know what that is. And reach for us is not just a volume measure, how many people are we reaching, but where are they located in Australia and what do we understand about them demographically from their age and also their mental health needs. Are they in crisis? Do they have high needs, or are they just beginning down this path? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context about some of the things I'm going to talk about today. So why does anonymity and trust matter to us at Reachout? And the answer is it matters to us because it matters to the young people that we serve. And you've heard So many talks this morning talk about you have to do research with your users to find out what really matters to them. So that's where we started with this about 2 years ago. Our core audience is 14 to 25 years old. We did some in-depth research with them. They were long interviews, and we were really digging away at what matters to you in this environment. And what we discovered is that under 18s and over 18s have different needs. And I don't just mean legally. Under 18s, we're obviously dealing with children's data, and that has a special place. But I'm talking about their expectations of us as an organisation and expectations of their digital experience. And I will also say there is still stigma around mental health that exists today. So if you think of a young person, maybe they're 14 or 15 years old, and they have a lot of feelings, and they're not sure if those feelings are all right, or maybe they're not all right, and they're beginning to explore this in their head, they're going, maybe I need to be really brave and begin to find out what's going on for me. So in that case, what we heard in those moments is for those people who are feeling very, very brave, they need anonymity, and they need to be able to trust the people that they're working with. And once we heard that, we went, okay, anonymity, we're pretty good at that. We understand what that means. You don't want to be identified. Okay, that's pretty clear. But what on earth do you mean by trust? Like, what is trust in this context? And what we heard back was that trust is a feeling. The feeling that I am adequately protected from harm. Now, translating feelings into online experiences is challenging. I'll show you some examples where we've had a go. So that's what we heard, that young people really care about anonymity and trust. So we've taken this on board, and I'm going to share my tips for designing privacy and trust into our digital services. And really, some of the work I'm going to share with you is, it is on behalf of the amazing people at Reachout, particularly Paulus and Julie, who head up our strategic design and product teams. And I feel very lucky to share some of this work. So, tip number 1, build it into the UX. What we did was create a very, very simple guiding statement around a product standard we wanted to uphold. It's really simple, one sentence. We want to be free, anonymous, and digital. And in that moment, once we had that written down, it was something we could use amongst ourselves, amongst the staff, to say, as we were designing and as we were building, is it free and is it anonymous? And what are we going to do about it? I'm going to show you some example screen grabs in a minute of how we actually translated this. But before I do, I'll just say this simple statement helped us in so many ways. It allowed us to say, hey, we should build new features in this particular way. This is how we should build them. They should be free and anonymous. We're able to sunset products that didn't meet this criteria, and that meant that there were cost savings. It also meant that we were starting to reduce the amount of data we collected. And that data was sometimes children's data, it was personal data, and it was sensitive health data. And in that space, we went, oh, there's risks involved in that. So we began to reduce our risk as well as we moved towards this. And the last thing is it gave us transparency. We realised that transparency in these decisions was really important. So this is what it looked like in a couple of cases. You can see on the left and the right, I have the same screen grab before the redesign and after the redesign. The one on the left shows you a pink box around a content gate. And what I'm actually showing you here is a resource for a high school teacher who might be teaching a class of 15-year-olds about how to understand bullying and what they might do about it. And before the redesign, what we had was a content gate, and we said, hey teachers, please create an account and sign up so you can get hold of this resource. And they did, because they really need it. They really, really need resources like this to improve their teaching. But after we had our product standard, we simply said, it just isn't anonymous and it doesn't feel free anymore. We're asking too much from them. So in the redesign, we took it away. There's no more content gate there anymore. It also means for us, there's less to maintain. I mean, there's a lot of kind of testing use cases around content gates. Don't have to worry about them anymore. What we did offer instead was an opt-in newsletter, which is right down the bottom of the page. And we said, if you would like to stay in touch with us, if you would like to exchange your email address with us, we'd be very grateful. We'll stay in touch with you. But it's not the price of entry anymore. Another example, So our peer chat service is this one-to-one chat service I mentioned earlier between a young person and a trained peer worker. And it's a very simple booking form. The top pink highlight shows what we're asking people for so they can identify themselves. It is not a real name. We realised early on we really did not need their real name in order to offer this service. We asked them to create a display name. And if they don't know what to put in there, there's a little button that says go random. Lots of people use that, and it creates silly names like Scarlet Frog. So we make it really easy for people to kind of say, yeah, cool, I'll make this booking. I'm feeling brave, I'm going to make this booking, and here's my pretend name for this chat session. Down below, you can also see the other pink highlight is where I've pulled out just how we're declaring transparency around, hey, we are going to collect some data along the way. This is what it is and this is what we do with it. So in this case, we do collect a mobile number on this booking form, and what we're really saying to people is we need this to help keep you safe. There are some moments in certain cases where we need to escalate concerns we have with the chats that are going on. So that's another example of how we're kind of building this philosophy into our UX. My second tip, create a data ethics framework. I'd be very interested, just before I kind of get into this, does anyone in the room work in a company that has a data ethics framework? Any hands? One, maybe two. Yeah, it's... So we created a very simple and usable data ethics framework, and we tested it. The big screen grab there is just showing you what it looks like. It's not very sexy. That's our Confluence page. That's it. It's not a fancy document for us, but it is really usable. You can even see highlights in there where people are kind of commenting and saying, oh, should I ask it this way? Or, should I apply it in this sense? It's been really helpful for us in situations where there's no clear right or wrong answer. So ethics is like a spectrum of risk. Do you want to have no risk at all, or are you happy to kind of behave unethically where you've got high risk? And where are you going to position yourselves on the spectrum? So there isn't a right or wrong answer to this. What it's helped do is align our leadership team and our delivery teams together under a common framework. So we all know where we sit on the spectrum and what decisions we want to make. Because of that, it's also increased the speed and the consistency of decision making. Things are no longer stuck with the leadership team or us going, but who can sign off on that decision? And I will say it doesn't replace anything like a privacy impact assessment or what you might be doing under the Australian privacy principles. That very legal side of data management sits over there. It's black and white. This is like the murky grey area of, but I could do this, but should I do this? So they've ended up being different things. So how did we do it? We were really slow to get going. We did a lot of desk research. We spoke to a lot of people, risk managers. We spoke to the Ethics Centre, who is a non-profit organisation that any business can go to and they can help with ethical conundrums. We spoke to UX researchers, all kinds of people. We looked outwards, but we did it with a very, very tiny team of one developer, one researcher, and one product manager. And we thought, oh, they're cross-functional, this will be good. But we missed a trick, and I'll tell you about what that is in a minute. It took months and months and months for those people, kind of an hour here, an hour there. They slowly brought something back together, and we sat there and we went, great, how do we embed it in the organisation? Who's going to sign it off? We just hadn't really thought that through. But it really got faster for us when it became a contractual requirement. I mean, you guys all know nothing motivates you like a deadline or a contract gets things going. Same thing happened to us. We also realised we'd conflated like this legal side of data with the ethical side of data, and we separated that back out. And we went to a wide group of staff and leadership, and this was the crux. We went wide and we got more people across the business into a single workshop one morning, and we stress tested this with scenarios. People came forward with scenarios and said, I had this question, should I do this or that with the data or in this situation, or if I know that, should I be acting this way? They became our scenarios. We sat in a room, and in a single morning, everyone walked out of there and went, this is workable, and we all know where we sit. So if I was to advise anyone, how could you do this? I'd do it a bit differently. I'd say look outwards. Since we did this a few years ago, the explosion of AI has meant that many companies are now having to publicly state what their data ethics frameworks are. Go looking for them. It's much easier now than it was for us. Go looking for them, bring them back together, look at them and go, what's relevant for us? What might we do with that? Separate data compliance. The law is the law. It's got its own documentation. And be pragmatic. I've heard this so many times in the talks this morning. People are just saying, just start, be pragmatic. Don't go for perfect. If you go to your staff and ask them to share their ethical challenges, go to your marketing teams, anyone in the front line of offering your products will have had a moment where they've gone, I'm not sure what I should do here with this data or in this situation. Write that down. That is your first scenario to test. So that's my second tip. And my third tip, we're all data people in here. We all like to make decisions with data. Be purposefully curious with data. And I'm going to give you a little example of something we've done fairly recently. So it's about the question you ask of your data. So we looked at the collection of personally identifiable data, where we do it on site. And there are reasons why we do this. And we looked at it and we went, not just how much of it are we collecting and how is that performing in the collection? Like, are we seeing a preference, say, between an email address or a mobile number? But we asked the next question beyond that, which is, which of these users is more likely to turn up on time to their peer chat session? Now, why do I care if someone turns up on time to their peer chat session? For all the commercial people in the room, you're looking, going, it's about cost. I want more sessions because it's more effective and efficient. For us, we bring an impact lens. If someone doesn't turn up on time, I can't give them the service. If they're not having the service we offer, we can't make an impact. So this is entirely driven by the impact we want to make with people. And we want them to turn up on time. And so we look kind of going, okay, mobile, email address, which of these users turns up on time? Now, before I give you the answer, and there is an answer, I will just caveat it with this. To do this, we used heap analytics and heap data, and we took that down to kind of a personal level to understand which individual users are turning up on time or not turning up on time. But I will just say this. We still need to respect anonymity. In our business, that's important. So we've masked data and instead we use unique identifiers, even when we're analysing data. So here's the answer. You saw a few graphs in heap analytics before, and this is 3 months of data showing email sign-ups and mobile sign-ups on a daily basis. Email's the clear winner for booking preference. The other one's not bad, mobile's not bad. But if I look at that next question beyond that, I go, well, who's late to the sessions or who doesn't show up at all? Email users, they're not so good at this. Mobile users aren't brilliant either, which is really a lot probably to do with dealing with youth mental health and how brave you have to be to turn up and have a conversation with someone about that. But I'll say this, we learnt this and we went, okay, email users are not working out so well for us. So what did we do? A black line, we turned it off. We stopped collecting email addresses in the middle of July. And we said, even though people prefer to book in this way, it's not allowing us to have an impact in the right time with as many people. So we turned it off. We now have lower rates of late users. And I'd love to be able to stand here and say, we solved all the problems, all the friction's gone, solved everything. But we're not there yet. Like everyone, we have a lot of challenges on this journey to help users through this experience. So maybe if I come back next year, I'll tell you how much further through this we get. But we turned it off. So we used this data to make a decision. It felt like a bold decision at the time, but it also feels like the right decision because we're trying to respect the fact that users don't really want to hand over their data. So when we do take it, we want to be careful with it and we want to make sure that it leads to impact. So I'm nearly out of time, but luckily, here's, in summary, 3 takeaways on how to build digital trust. You've got to understand what trust means from your user's point of view, because obviously my users are different to yours. Ask them, they'll tell you. Just ask the right questions. Once you've done that, you can build it into your user experience. De-risk decisions with data ethics frameworks. Ethics really is about risk and where you want to sit on a risk spectrum. Use this to your advantage and figure it out before anything goes wrong. And scratch a little deeper with your data. Insights are only as good as the questions you ask, so ask better questions of your data. And if you're interested in the vast amounts of personally identifiable information we all gather and we all give away as consumers, maybe ask the next question, like, I know we all think it's useful, but which bits are most useful and what are we going to do with the vast volumes of it? So, thanks for listening. Very happy to talk about this more. I'm well aware that kind of non-profit work is quite different to a lot of the commercial work being shared today. So if you're interested, come and find me at lunchtime. Thanks a lot.